one of the main issues at the moment is mass immigration. And I wonder, I mean, it's different. You're from the States, aren't you?
Yeah, from California.
Got a bit of a different mass immigration issue in these countries. Here it's centered around Islam, I think a lot of the concern is. Is that a good example of a luxury belief? Because a lot of people, well, you can explain it.
Is it? Yeah, I would say, I mean, especially illegal immigration, because it displaces the local workers. So yeah, I mean, legal immigration, I think, is more complex because you could make the argument that when you have legal immigration, that those individuals bring energy and dynamism and ultimately help the societies that they're immigrating into. But when you have illegal immigration and people who are working under the table, who aren't paying taxes, who are undercutting the local workers, so if the minimum wage in your society is whatever, £9 an hour, £10 an hour, or $15 an hour in the US, and then you have someone who can work under the table for half or a third of that wage, then yeah, naturally people at the bottom, native citizens of those countries, are going to suffer and they're not going to be able to obtain employment. So this does seem like a luxury belief, because who's benefiting from that? Who benefits from illegal immigration? It's wealthy corporations who can pay workers very low wages in order to keep their organizations especially profitable.
And middle-class people who then can get lower prices when they go shop at those corporations.
Exactly. Yeah.
Something Batya Ungar Sargon, do you know her? She did that Second Class or something was the name of her book. Yeah. She went around looking at the working class of America and found that they don't want this woke stuff. They just want to work and try and earn a living. What about when you do get like a white liberal, let's say, who is big on BLM and diversity? So I'm thinking of a Robin DiAngelo kind of person. Where is the self-interest for these people? Because on the face of it, it's just a white person who's supporting something that isn't in their interest. So where is the self-interest in this?
Well, it's interesting because in a lot of progressive spaces, the hierarchies have been sort of inverted. And now the way that you can obtain status is essentially by calling out your own privilege, right? So it's not as if Robin DiAngelo has, she's essentially getting wealthy by talking about how privileged she is, which is a pretty nice racket, right? So you can just sort of tell people, oh, I'm a white person and I have to atone for this, that, and the other, and you as a white person do as well. But the white people that she's berating aren't earning money from book sales and workshops and public speaking gigs and so on. She is, and this happens. I've seen this at elite universities where white progressives will talk about how privileged they are, and they're not losing status when they talk about it. They gain it, because by recognizing your own privilege, suddenly everyone else views you as a good person, as a humble, compassionate, understanding, empathic person. Whereas if you weren't to preface whatever remarks you're about to make with, oh, I'm so privileged and I know I'm, this, that, and the other identity categories that I hold, then people will view you with hostility and suspicion. So there's this interesting sort of reversal.
Since you started speaking about this last couple of years, have you changed your mind in any way? And also, have you changed minds?
I have changed minds, not directly, but I have received emails from people, a lot of sort of fence-sitting classical liberals or people who are centrist or moderate. They read something that I've written or heard me on a podcast, and they did say that they started to question their own views or wondered how it was that they came to believe certain things. And then after the moment had passed and tempers had cooled, they suddenly recognized that, how was I possibly supporting the idea of, say, defunding the police? And then they saw what happened, and then they realized, oh, I was getting caught up in this, and recognizing their own motives. Have I changed my mind about anything? I'm reluctant to say no, but I'm sure I must have. Nothing comes immediately to mind, but
I don't want to make you say you've changed your mind.
Well, I guess like one thing that's changed, I don't know if this counts as like a fully mind-changing moment, but I used to write in more sort of stark accusatory terms. I used to actually say things like, elites hold luxury beliefs in order to do X, Y, Z, as if this was deliberate and malicious and so on. But I've spoken to enough people, elites or quasi-elites or people who are in that category. And I think most of them, at least they believe they're doing the right thing. They're not malicious. They're not trying to hurt anyone, but they just get caught up in these movements. They get swept up. And, once you're in a position where you're so comfortable and so far removed from the everyday concerns of ordinary citizens, it's easy to convince yourself that it's time to champion some newfangled, strange movement. But so that's one. But at the same time, I'm not sure I'm not that interested in the question of intent, because the outcome is the same either way. It doesn't matter if some poor person in some marginalized neighborhood is getting harassed or bullied or killed, because of some policy that was promoted at the top. To that person, it doesn't matter whether it was intentional or not. And so as a result, I do think that we have an obligation. If you're a member of the elite or an affluent person who wields some kind of influence, that you have a duty to be thinking about, well, okay, here's this idea that I want to promote, this policy that I want to champion. You have to think clearly about potential second-order consequences, unforeseen outcomes. Will it make things better? Maybe, but at the very least, you shouldn't be promoting ideas that could make things worse.
I'm trying to think now whether intent matters. I'm just thinking, because I suppose you could say it matters in terms of how we approach rectifying it. If people are deliberately just being selfish and elite and all of those things, maybe we do need to, as you started doing, be more aggressive and say like, screw you guys. If it's coming out, if it's sort of a natural result of them trying to be righteous and good, then maybe we need to have more subtle ways of saying, hey, actually, I know you think you're doing good and you're a good person, but let's bring you down from that cultish ideology.
That's a good point. Yeah. I think that's worth knowing. Yeah, that if it's being held maliciously, then you would adopt a different strategy than if it's sort of naivete.